Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's global live stream. Today, the book launch, and our author is Loretta Lubera, and she has an incredible book called Your Future is in Your Hands, 22 Keys to Creating a Life You Love Before It's Too Late. And I am Missy Maxwell Wharton. I am going to be your host today. And I have been so excited to interview Loretta because this book just intrigued me. This is a book that it'll enrich your knowledge and just give you valuable life lessons. You know, we're never too young or too old, I might add in my case, to learn something new. And the moment we stop learning is the moment that we lose what we need, and that is hope. And listen, this is Loretta. Want to introduce you right here. Loretta, it is awesome to have you on here today.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
I am too. I'm excited to have you. And, you know, before we go any further, I know a lot of people are looking forward to hearing what your book is about and just a little bit more about you. But I would like to share just a little bit of your bio first, because your bio really intrigued me. So it says, as an 8th grader, Loretta Lubera declared that her ideal occupation would be to become a counselor. Now, although she ended up choosing a different path and is now a business leader, she still has a passion for supporting people in their journey. Boy, this book will do it too. Loretta has spent years working with teens and young adults to provide mentorship, guidance, and hope. Having lived in, get this, Asia, Canada, and now the United States, Loretta brings forth perspectives from around the world. She resides in Honolulu, Hawaii. All of us who are freezing are going, with her husband and their 2 wonderful and incredibly fun children. Not a day goes by without endless laughter. So I have to ask you, I got to hear about this endless laughter. How do you keep laughter in your home?
I don't know. I think we're all just a little wacky. Like we're just kind of just naturally a little wacky. I think there was this post that someone was asking, can we, share emojis that represent your family? And I just ended up putting 4 clowns because I feel like that's how we are. We're just always clowning around and everyone just has a ton of fun every day.
That is so good, because joy really is a weapon, because it keeps away darkness. It keeps away just when people are down. And in these days, which I thought your book, the title of your book, Your Future is in Your Hands, you know, we're going through this time in history that we've never seen a time like this before. And so when you have joy, and you have joy in your home, when you have joy, you literally have a weapon that pushes back the things that of depression and fear. It can't be there when you've got joy. So I loved reading that, and not very many people think about putting that in their bio, but I just absolutely loved it. So today, before we get going, today, whoever is like most active and activated in with us and in this conversation, because we want you to just sit down and have a cup of coffee with us. But whoever is really in there and placing comments, you know, Loretta wants to thank you for that. And she is giving away a hardback that's personalized just for you. So keep those comments coming. There it is. Why you got it up there? Let me ask you something. How did you come up with that book cover? I love it.
I mean, I gotta give a lot of credit to my cover designer. There were certain things I wanted and certain things I knew I didn't want, but she came up with this concept, and we together wanted to have an image that really shows people, right? Your life is in your hands, and this tree, for it to represent life and growth, and really, it's truly in your hands to nurture and foster. And I mean, just funny little story is when I was finalizing the image, and I mean, I wasn't really initially, sure if I should have the tree running off the page, or I wouldn't make the title too small and so forth. And then I asked my daughter, my 6-year-old daughter, and she's the decisive one in the family. So, I love going to her for advice, actually. And she like right off the bat, she said, yeah, but Mama, life doesn't stop growing. So it's okay for it to be off the page.
Wow.
it just shows life doesn't stop growing, and it's
Mhm.
just mind blowing. And I'm like, spot on, baby girl.
Yeah.
That's right there.
The wisdom of a child. I
Yeah.
mean, children really do have this innate ability to call forth wisdom that as adults, I think we've shielded ourselves from or even pushed it aside. But that's I
Mhm.
love that. I love that. Every time I look at your book now, I'm gonna think about that thought. Well, I want to ask you because your book was actually released a few months ago, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And it was released as a #1 on Amazon in the categories of popular developmental psychology and in etiquette guides and advice.
Yeah.
So, how did that make you feel when you came out #1?
Um, well, shock, I think, was the first one, and then gratitude, right? Because I didn't even expect to be able to get that, right? Like, there's so many books released every single day on Amazon. It's competitive in there. So I
Mhm.
mean, truly feeling a lot of gratitude to have people support. Obviously,
Yeah.
like there were people just going in there waiting to buy the book. And I think that's ultimately what allowed it to be #1 in both categories.
Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
that's one category is amazing. 2, that is you incredible. Good
Thank
job
you.
there. Well, let me ask you, your book title. Why did you decide on this book title?
Um, the book title is something I agonized over
Mm,
for months. Like it's kind of naming a child. It just has to be perfect and right. And there were so many different ones that I kind of liked, but it just wasn't hitting me in the gut as like bam, like that's the right one. And suddenly it just came to me one day, and I just loved it so much. I ran to my husband and I said, I got it. Your future is in your hands. And he's like, yes, yes, that's it.
yeah,
And I mean, just the more I let it kind of marinate, the more I loved
mhm,
it, because it really comes with two meanings. It's
yeah,
one is, your future is in your hands, right? Like, so, the message to readers, like, it's in your hands to grow and to make sure it turns out well. I mean, it's your life, it's your future. You
mm,
have control over how it turns out.
yeah,
So that's one part. And then the other part is because my book is based on a lot of different life lessons and learnings and life stories from
mhm,
people around the world. Like, I went out and asked hundreds of people around the world, right? Like what they would want to share. So this essentially is a collection of how their lives turned out based on certain life choices they made along the
mhm,
way. So for my readers, it's like this is, a preview almost,
yeah,
right? A little bit like, the choose your own adventure kind
yeah,
of book, right?
yeah,
Like from way back when. And it gives them a glimpse of, okay, if I were to make these decisions and these choices along the way,
mhm,
this is a potential outcome of my future. And so here are different glimpses and sneak peeks in your hands of how your life could turn out if you were to make similar choices and decisions.
wow. That I mean, okay, that right there, there is nobody there's nobody out there that doesn't need this kind of wisdom, this kind of knowledge, because it doesn't matter how old you are, you're going to still learn something from a book like this. Because
Mhm.
would you say what was the average age that the people who submitted information to you about what they had learned in their journey
It was a wide range.
was?
Yeah, I mean, it went as high as I think 70s and 80s.
Okay, yeah,
But
they
as young as people in their 20s, right? So people who are still kind of in my target reader group, right? Of
right,
people who I feel would get the most out of this. But it was a wide range. And so it was very interesting to see what they shared,
yeah.
the wisdoms. There were a lot of commonalities. So I think it goes to show along the way we sometimes encounter the same kind of takeaways and things we want to learn and still improve upon.
Yes. Well, that's and we can learn a lot from youth as well because they have just walked through something and they know when they make mistakes. It's like,
Yes.
okay, I shouldn't have done that. And here's what I would do differently. And maybe these, this is a great graduation gift because, graduation is coming up in a little over 2 months now. I've got a
Mhm.
senior in high school and one in college. Ugh, I know I don't look like it, right?
No, not at
Yeah,
all.
thanks. I like you a lot. um, but the whole thing is that they're going to learn from someone that's just a little closer to their age. But at
Mhm.
the same time, they're going to receive from the other people that are in there. So that is, I mean, that's just brilliant that you took from different ages. Yeah. So I love that you did that because, my senior learning from someone who's in their 20s or 30s may be quicker to take that advice because it's like, oh, okay, I need to listen to this. And let's hope that they do. So this is gonna be a graduation gift for sure. So be
Aw.
thinking about it out there. This is gonna be a good one. So go on Amazon and find Loretta's book. So let me ask you another question. How did the concept of your book come about? Were you just thinking about it and thinking, okay, I would like to learn more about how I can avoid the pitfalls in life? And I would just like to gather some ideas and just wisdom from people so I can live a better life? Or were you thinking not just for you, but for your own children?
Um, this was one where I was literally driving
Mhm.
and this idea dropped in and wouldn't leave me.
Yeah. That's
So it just had to be done, but, it's just started as a very basic idea of, like, this is one way you can help our youths out there. So it did, I mean, to answer your question, it did start off as, how can I help make an impact in the community?
yeah.
Um, but I knew it couldn't just be, a bunch, a collection of one-liners of what to do and what not to do. Like,
Yeah.
it can't just
Yeah.
stop there because then how do I apply it to my own life?
Yeah.
So then I started to, just evaluate, like, okay, how can I take this book that one extra step, right?
Yeah.
To help people
Yeah.
to be able to see, okay, like, what does this really mean? Right?
Mhm.
When I say, stay true to yourself, that's, one of the, my chapter titles. And, um, but what does that mean?
Yeah.
Right? So, by being able to share stories of real people out there who have lived through life and looking back, they really wished they didn't spend so many years trying to be someone they weren't,
Right.
surrounding themselves with friends who didn't let them be who they truly are. Right. And so by including these things and talking about how their lives panned out, um right, and almost has this sense of regret in it, and I'm hoping then people can grasp the concept better, right? It's not just, oh yeah, I gotta stay true to myself, but it's really like, oh no, right, like, this is potentially what could happen if I go down this path or
Yeah.
follow what I'm currently doing. I will live to a point where I'll look back and I'll regret a lot of things.
Yeah. That's so good. And you present a lot of these in story form.
Yeah.
So, and that's how, as human beings, we're actually created to respond to
Mhm.
stories. We respond better to stories than list. We don't respond to list. It's just, this, that, it's like when we learned our math or our spelling, that could be mine. But just you just learn how to do it. You take the test and you forget it.
Yeah.
But as human beings, we were created to crave stories. And the reason we crave stories is this is how we learn. We're
Mhm.
created to learn through storytelling. And you can see it in some of the greatest books in history. The stories in there are what we learn from. And if you don't learn from history, what is that? You'll be declared have to repeat the past.
Mhm. Yep.
I don't want to repeat some of the past that is out there. But I was looking over your table of contents, and one that stuck out to me was make time for your passions. So is that for your passion? And your words are powerful. But first, make time for your passion. What was this one of your favorites to do? Did you have a favorite script, not scripture, but did you have a favorite story?
Um, yeah, so this one was actually one of those the common takeaways from
Mhm.
people who answer that question, like, what would you tell your younger self if you had that chance? This bumped up to be one of the top ones. And I think a lot of people get to a point and then they look back and they think, I really wish I had fostered this thing I really wanted to do, right? Like some dream, like, the follow your dream, but okay, I'll do it later because life's busy. But life doesn't really get unbusy. It
Mhm.
stays busy and it gets more busy. So, I mean, there were a lot of people who talked about, something they put on the back burner, thinking one day I'll come back to it, and they never did.
Yeah.
So my encouragement in that chapter is to really tell people that, just find the time and make time for it. You don't just decide, I'm going to just drop everything and I'll do it, but you just got to find time. If it's important enough to you, find the time to do it. And I got to actually share a story about my mom in this chapter. And it's, I was hoping to be able to encourage readers that it's truly never too late. And I mean, in a sense, right? Like that, you can always still find the time to nurture what brings your heart joy to do. And so the story I got to share about my mom is, I mean, as the pandemic started, um, she picked up, artistic drawing type of lessons virtually, right? So it was just something that came about, never really considered learning how to draw, but she was easily one of those, just like me, who declared themselves as like, I can't draw anything besides stick men, right?
Yeah.
And then so she started attending lessons, and it was with my illustrator. Actually, that's how I got to meet my illustrators, because he started off teaching my mom first. And so let me see if I can actually show some of these. And
Yes.
the images don't really do justice to how they look, because I recently got to see them in real life in her sketch pad, and it was amazing. So she started off with, this is one of her first ones, and she wasn't proud of it, but I thought I would include it anyway, because I think it goes to show someone's journey, right? The progress. So this was a doodle type of sketch, freehand, do whatever you want with it type of thing.
Yeah.
And then eventually, after 1 year's time, she was able, oh, where's my camera?
Wow.
Was able to draw.
Wow, that bird is like detail. That is beautiful. And that home. Wow, you're
Yeah,
never too old, man.
never too old.
So this is the first lesson y'all can learn. Just if you have a desire and a passion that you never continue to walk through, that is something you're never too old to start painting, start drawing. Who knows? I've heard of so many great authors and great writers, not
Mhm.
just artists and authors, but who had started older.
Yeah.
And I think one of the ones was C.S. Lewis, started very late. So I always look at the fact that Moses was 80 years old when he started building that boat. You're never too
Noah.
Noah.
Yeah.
I knew that. I knew that. Yeah. Okay. but look at the table of context. Um, contents is just, your words are powerful. I believe on that. Restrain your pride. Oh, yes. Pause to reflect. How many of us are so busy we never pause to reflect? I mean, your table of contents says it all. Mentors are angels in disguise.
They are.
Ah,
They really are.
self-discipline is a gift. Wow. Be kind unconditionally. Wow, that'll preach. And first be the right one. Okay, what's that one about? First be the right one.
So I have two chapters that touch upon the topic about, marriages.
Yeah.
Because this was another one that kind of bubbled up as what people wish they had done something different. And a lot of times when we're young and we're looking or starting to, ponder, who can I marry? It's kind of in this dream world kind of view, right?
Yeah.
You go there, oh my gosh, there's so much chemistry. Um and a lot of people just marry based on those feelings and these chemistry, and as we've kind of all know, right? Like, that's not what makes a marriage last. And so I have a chapter that talks about, first you got to know what you want and need in a spouse, right? And that takes needing to understand yourself first. So
Yeah.
it's right. And when we know what we want and what we need, and when we go out with that on that search, once we know, then that's how we can actually see. When you search for something, that's when you find, right?
Mhm.
But then I had the preceding chapter is, but first you yourself need to be the right one.
Mhm.
So we need to make sure we are coming, just wholeheartedly and 100% of what we can bring
Yeah.
to the relationship first, instead of looking for someone else to fill the void and
Yeah.
whatnot. But first
Yeah.
we need to be whole and complete, and here's what I can essentially bring to the table or to the relationship.
That's the right way to start a marriage. I am telling you, a relationship, that is, it's not just about what you give me. It
Mhm.
is about we're coming together,
Yeah,
and we've got to hold each other up and walk beside each other in this life. And that's how you make a marriage work.
that's
That's
right.
beautiful. Is there a certain chapter that really resonated with you personally, that it just sticks out to you?
um yeah, I mean, there were a whole bunch. I mean, one, it's I wrote about my dad, and that's, say I love you often.
Yeah.
So that's really reminding people when you have that chance to express your love. So
Mhm.
that one was a very personal one for me. It was the
That
toughest one to write.
usually is. The closer it
Yeah.
is to you, the harder it is to write, which,
Yeah.
what was your biggest learning, your biggest takeaway as author of this book?
Um, I think it's when you look at a task that's what seems huge,
Yeah.
like writing a book,
Mhm.
um, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, and I find that that's kind of my pattern, right? I look at something, I feel overwhelmed, as I all know. Um, and I kind of wrote about this too, but I think at the same time it was such a great reminder for me because I got to live through that
Mhm.
process.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when I first got this, right, this idea got planted, okay, I'm gonna do this. But then I didn't know how to do it, right? Like, how do you publish a book? Because yeah, all the books look so nice, right? But
Yes.
how do they get there? No idea, right? And I'm so thankful, right? Got to learn about Author Academy Elite, and I know it was no accident that that
Mhm.
happened, but and so I got to learn the process of how to get a book published,
Yeah.
and then I realized, okay, well, how long is a book typically? And it's 40,000 words. And I just kind of threw my hands in the air. I don't know how to produce 40,000 words that actually make sense and coherent and that
Yeah.
I'm proud to attach my name to,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and then, so it's really that, I think, is when you look at something you got to accomplish and it seems so huge that I don't know how. It's
Mhm.
one, seek help,
Yes.
because there's so many people out there who are really willing to help if
Mhm.
they knew that you need that help.
Yes.
And then it's breaking it down into the small digestible, like, things that you could tackle. It's a small task. And so when I learned, okay, well, then look at, if each day you produce 500 words,
Yeah.
you get to the over 40,000 in 3 months. And I was like, okay, well, I think I could do that. Right. And then it just becomes like, okay, so the kind of the feeling of being overwhelmed kind of just goes away,
Just
and then you can focus and then produce the good work. And I think, yeah, so it's kind of easy to talk about and describe, but I think
Mhm.
just having to live that, and just, just amidst all the busyness,
Yes.
right, over that whole period from beginning to end, it's like carving that time to at least still put out the 500 words a day,
Mhm.
and right, brick by brick, word by word, sentence by sentence, it got here. And I actually
Mm.
ended up with 57,000 words, and we had to trim back because it was too long.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah,
But,
I
I
can
mean,
do it.
it's like with any work of art, and a book is
Yeah,
a work of art. And if you look at Michelangelo, he would go in and just chip a little way at a time, just a few marble pieces at a time before David could be seen. And it took him 2 years,
yeah,
just a little chipping away. And I would always think about that when I'd write my book. It's just,
that's a
oh,
good one.
just let me go in and just chip away at this just a little bit. longer. And I love how Author Academy Elite does help you chip away at it slowly so that you aren't overwhelmed by everything, you know. So it
Yeah.
is possible to do a book. It is, and do it well. So
Mhm.
that is so good. Well, I know we're coming down to the last 5 minutes, but
Oh,
why
wow.
do these people need your book? I mean, how will it help them? But I already know it's gonna be a great graduation gift for sure. That this is
Yeah.
a number one seller.
Yeah. I think for readers is, just helping them to it's like a reminder to pause and give your decisions and your choices that extra thought, right?
Yeah,
Because it could have a ripple effect,
yeah,
right, on the rest of your future, right? As well as maybe even your future generations.
right.
So it's worthwhile. And I recently, read a book that mentioned you have two great teachers in life, and one is wisdom that's free. It's
Mhm.
it's it's available. The price is, I mean, it's free. Like you can just chase it, but it requires you to go and grab it.
Yeah.
Um, and then the other one is consequences, which is a lot
Mm,
of times expensive, especially when you have to encounter it yourself and
yeah.
then overcome and recover from it. And so you can choose from these two, right? Like, so my book has kind of both. It has the wisdom, but then also people's consequences. So you don't have to make these mistakes by yourself. You get to learn from both sides, but without really, right? Like, it's already in your hands. So
Mhm.
here it is, and just learn and apply the learning. So I think it's also great for parents, right?
Yes.
Sometimes, having lived through that phase in life where I think I had all the answers, um right, I think this is a great way for me to partner with
Mm,
parents. So it's a
yes.
different way of putting these wisdoms and learnings, to teach their teens
Yeah.
and young adult children, right, just a way of different way to help with the effort in
Yes.
bestowing wisdom in their young ones.
Well, we can never go without wisdom. It is one area that we never stop learning. At least we shouldn't. And I think this
Mhm.
is just it's probably one of the most excellent ways to learn is from those who've pioneered it before us. And they're like, okay, there is a really bad ditch this way. Avoid it at all
Yeah,
costs. You
yeah.
know, so that is great. And then what do you want readers to understand? Like, what is that one thing you want them to understand about this book?
I want them to understand, they have control
Mm,
and the responsibility over how their future turns out. It's not just, I'll just drift along and look back and go, oops.
yeah,
Right? It's way better to be at a spot where you look back and you give yourself a pat on the back because you actively set out to plan your future well. And here it is. And I am happy that I chose to do that. And great job. So I
yeah,
would rather, right, people get to be in that kind of situation rather than
yes.
looking back with a lot of regrets and remorse.
That is the best gift you can give someone. Well, I know this interview went so quick.
I
You are
know. When you said five
right.
minutes, I said, wait, what?
I know. You are such a delight to talk to. I could probably, if you've written your book the way you talk, I'm gonna fly through that thing because I've just thoroughly enjoyed it. You're a joy to talk to in person, and so I know that comes through in your book as well. So, for those of you who are watching this, this is a perfect book for graduation or just anyone. You're giving a gift of saying, "Look, I want you to make wise decisions in your life," and sometimes we can't see that on our own. And so, congratulations on your
Thank
book,
you.
on your number ones. Man, some of your not endorsements, but some of the people who wrote about reading your book, you have some great referrals and interviews and things like that. Great book for all ages. The author's personable storytelling and writing style drew me in. It was such an enjoyable read. I couldn't put the book down. The stories made me smile and cry, and some also just incredibly impactful, reminded me of the things that are important in life. I felt like I was listening to a close friend who's honest, mature, and wise. And that Everybody needs that kind of friend. So it has been a delight having you here today. Do you have
Thank you,
anything
Missy.
you want to say before we, oh, wait a minute. Do we have the winner of the, oh, here we go. Congrats, Susan Crawford, for winning a copy. Do you know Susan?
I do. Thank you,
Yay!
Susan.
Yay! So we are so glad you won it, and you will get your personalized hardback
Yeah.
from Loretta. So that is exciting. That's so exciting. Any last words? This has been a joy.
Yeah, it's been a joy. So thanks for having me. I think it's really just a lot of what we talked about. Just be grounded in joy, because that's ultimately, what makes life so much worth living.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just take control over how our future turns out.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Loretta, thank you so much. And a huge congratulations. And you
Thank
all
you.
go out there and get that book, support her. This is a great book that will help anybody who reads it. And it's definitely going to be one to have in your library. So thank you, everyone, for dropping in and joining us. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.